explore with Danny's ritual encounter. Danny has always been fascinated by the paranormal, and the old house on the edge of town is the perfect setting for his next expedition. Rumors of strange lights and strange noises have circulated for years, and neighbors talk of shadowy figures seen moving behind curtains on a cold, moonless night. Danny and his friend Max decide to investigate. They park a distance away, not wanting to attract attention. The house looms in the darkness, its windows looking like empty eye sockets. Danny adjusts his camera and nods to Max. "Ready?" he asks, his voice a mix of excitement and anxiety. Max swallows. "Readier than ever?" he replies, clutching his flashlight. They approached the house, the wooden porch creaking under their weight. Danny pushed the door open, the hinges groaning in protest. The air inside was cold and stale, filled with the smell of decay. "We're inside," Danny whispered to the camera. "This place is even creepier than I imagined." The house was a maze of dark hallways and creaking floors. As they moved through the rooms, the flashlight beams revealed peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. Every corner seemed to hide a shadow, every sound amplified in the oppressive silence. "Did you hear that?" Max whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Danny nodded. "Yeah, it sounded like the basement." They exchanged a worried look before heading toward the basement door. The stairs creaked ominously as they descended, the darkness growing thicker with each step. At the foot of the stairs, they paused, listening. From one of the rooms came a low, "What the hell is that?" Max muttered, his voice barely audible. They moved cautiously toward the sound, their flashlights casting strange shadows on the damp, moldy walls. The chanting grew louder, more insistent. They came to a door, slightly ajar, and Danny slowly pushed it open. The sight before them sent a wave of terror through their bodies. A young girl knelt in the middle of a crude circle, her eyes closed, her hands moving in strange, purposeful patterns. The air around her seemed to vibrate with an unnatural energy. "Oh my God," Danny whispered, his hands shaking as he held the camera. "What is she doing?" Max's voice trembled. "We have to get out of here." But as they turned to leave, the girl's eyes widened. She let out a pained scream, the sound piercing the silence and echoing off the walls. The boys froze, fear keeping them rooted to the spot. The girl slowly stood up, her movements jerky and unnatural, and began to follow them. "Run!" Danny yelled, grabbing Max's arm and pulling him toward the stairs. They rushed up, the girl's screams growing louder and more frantic. Go, go, Danny urged, his heart pounding in his chest. They rushed into the main floor, not daring to look back. The house seemed to close in around them, the walls narrowing as they ran toward the front door. The girls' footsteps echoed behind them, a relentless pursuit. "Hurry!" Max yelled, fumbling with the doorknob. They fell outside, the cold night air a stark contrast to the stuffy atmosphere of the house. Danny slammed the door shut, his hands shaking. What the hell? He gasped, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Max shook his head, eyes wide with horror. "I don't know, but we're never going back there." As they raced to the car, Danny turned the camera toward the house one last time. In the window above, the girl stood staring at them with sunken eyes. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, her hands reaching out as if to drag them back into the darkness. Danny and Max jumped into the car and drove away. The haunting image of the girl burned into their minds. The house was still a shadow in the rearview mirror, its secrets undisturbed. But the memory of that night and the girl's anguished scream would haunt them forever. Story 2. Royal Hawaiian Motel. The scorching heat of the California desert had begun to subside as night fell, casting a cool black shadow over Baker. Jake, a seasoned urban explorer, had set his sights on the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, a long-abandoned relic that had been left to rot under the relentless sun for more than a decade. He always found it strangely fascinating to explore these forgotten places, each a time capsule of a bygone era. Jake parked on the side of the deserted road, gravel crunching under his tires, and stepped out into the quiet night. The motel was not far away, its once bright neon sign now a rusty, twisted frame. He slung his backpack over his shoulder, adjusted his flashlight, and began to approach. The silence was deep, broken only by the occasional rustle of wind through the dry brush. The motel was oddly easy to get to. There was no fence, no barricade. Just an open invitation to anyone who dared to enter. The courtyard was a mess of cracked concrete and overgrown weeds. His flashlight swept across the empty pool, its deep basin now a canvas for graffiti artists. He took in the view of the motel, noting the shattered windows and doors that hung from their frames like broken limbs. As he ventured deeper into the grounds, a sudden noise made his blood run cold. A voice, unmistakably female, echoed through the silence. Jake's first instinct was to hide. He dashed into one of the ground floor rooms and turned off his flashlight, his heart pounding in his ears. He crouched in the darkness, listening intently. Minutes passed, stretching into what felt like hours, but there was no more sound. Cautiously, he turned the flashlight back on and continued exploring. The rooms were all variations on the same theme: broken furniture, graffiti-covered walls, and the smell of decay. As he moved from room to room, his unease grew. The silence felt oppressive, as if the motel itself were watching him. Then he heard a loud noise from above. His heart skipped a beat. He stepped outside and aimed his flashlight at the second-floor hallway. Shards of broken glass glinted in the beam, creating strange reflections. Taking a deep breath to steady his nerves, Jake decided to investigate. The stairs creaked under his weight, each step a reminder of the building's precarious state. The slow, rhythmic thumping grew louder as he approached one of the rooms. He hesitated at the door, then slowly pushed it open. The room was nearly pitch black, but his flashlight picked out the silhouette of a figure against the back wall. The next smell hit him, a stench of decay and filth. He backed away, fumbling with the flashlight, trying not to startle anyone or anything inside. As he aimed it downward, it illuminated two pale, bare feet moving quickly toward him. Jake yanked the flashlight upward, revealing a woman with a bloody forehead and a strange yellow substance dripping from her mouth. Her eyes were wide, her expression completely insane. Without thinking, Jake turned and ran. The woman's screams followed him, shrill and inhuman. He stumbled down the stairs, almost falling in his desperate escape. His legs burned as he sprinted back to his car, the motel and its horrors receding into the darkness behind him. Panting and shaking, Jake called his friend George, another urban explorer, and recounted his terrifying experience. They concluded that the rhythmic thumping was the woman repeatedly banging her head against the wall, a disturbing realization that made Jake's skin crawl. Fearing the consequences of trespassing, he hesitated to call the police, but eventually used a non-emergency number to anonymously report the woman. He drove away, the events of that night seared into his memory, a grim reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows of forgotten places.